Hello, and you're very welcome to the National League Rugby Preview Show, Round 6's edition, powered by Talking Rugby Union, where every Thursday we look ahead to the latest fixtures in National 1 and National 2, and also give our clubs a little bit more of a time in the spotlight so they can tell us about what their club has to offer and why supporters of National League Rugby and rugby in general should be dropping everything they're doing this weekend and heading down to your local National League Rugby club on a Saturday afternoon. And in the case of round 6, also on Friday night, and more to come on that a little bit later in the show. As always, as we keep saying, please do like our videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and share all our content with as many people as you can, because it does boost the profile of National 1 and National 2. Thanks so much to everybody who supported us so far. We have noticed a lot of you are watching the show, but quite a few of you haven't hit the subscribe button yet. So if you just take a couple of seconds to hit that subscribe button, it's either in the left or right hand corner. I'm not sure which one. It should be very visible. It takes only a couple of seconds, but it also does support what we're doing here at National League Rugby. And a huge thanks to both Rotherham Titans and Lim for their time on last week's show. Both clubs picking up excellent victories in round 5. And in terms of the clubs we will be shining that spotlight on this week, the two clubs come from National 2 East and National 2 West, where we'll be focusing on Canterbury and Loughborough students. Both teams have made excellent starts to the campaign, but we'll be kind of talking to them about the different and unique elements of each club. So in terms of National 2 East, Canterbury, we'll be chatting to DOR, Taff, Gwilliam, as well as first 15 player Nathan.morris. But Nathan is also head of player pathway at Canterbury. So why is that important? Well, Canterbury have recently launched a new academy alongside a local school in Kent, which in a nutshell provides local children, local students with the chance to combine playing rugby and learning and experiencing what rugby is all about, whilst also concentrating on their academic studies. So it's a fantastic initiative which Canterbury are involved in. We know they are a real hub of the community down there, and they offer so many different strands of rugby to the community, whether that's the senior setup, the women and girls setup, mini and juniors, walking rugby, wheelchair rugby, and this is the latest initiative which they are part of. It sounds like a fantastic thing they're doing, and we'll be hearing from Taff and Nathan later on in the show. And as for Loughborough, we caught up with head of rugby Martin Webdale, who to discuss really the balance between Loughborough's National League Rugby commitments and National 2 West, but also the commitments within university rugby. So for those who don't know at the moment, Loughborough currently sits second in National 2 West after a brilliant start to the season, as we just said. But they also have a high performance team in Buck Super Rugby, which is the top tier of university rugby, and Loughborough are currently the champions of that competition. So it's a really unique balance they have to strike in the Midlands. So it was great to hear from Martin about that unique challenge. And as we say, we'll be seeing that interview a little bit later on when we focus on National 2 West. But let's start where we always do, and that is with National 1, where round 5 was a brilliant weekend for the top 3, and that is a new top 3 in the 3rd tier. Rams celebrated their centenary year with another comprehensive win, this time a 54-29 win over Leicester Lions. Zach Clow's dancing feet, one of 8 tries which the league leaders scored. Leicester Lions departing Berkshire with a bonus point, but still a fantastic afternoon for Seb Reynolds' side. Richmond are the only other team with 5 wins from 5. They passed another stern test, this time against Sale FC. OBNE scoring this absolute beauty for the visitors in a proper tit-for-tat game, but Richmond eventually prevailed 31-27 in that one. And John Okafor was yet again the man of the moment for Rotherham, as his first half hat-trick helped the Titans defeat Dings 45-19 at Clifton Lane. It's now 19 straight wins at home for Rotherham Titans, and the field goal factor continues around Clifton Lane. So let's just have a look at the table then. And as we've mentioned, the top 3 there, are Rams, Richmond and Rotherham. Rams with 25 points from 25, and Richmond and Rotherham actually leapfrogged Birmingham Moseley in round 5 after Adam Balding's side suffered their first defeat of the season, losing 35-15 away at Plymouth Albion. At the bottom, Darlington, Moden Park and Esher are still chasing their first wins of the campaign. DMP were beaten 45 by Blackheath last time out, but they did lead with 5 minutes to go before half-time before falling away in that one, whilst Esher earned a try bonus in their 44-26 loss to Roslyn Park. And interestingly, Esher hosts Darlington Moden Park in round 6, so something has got to give in that one. Just also to note around that fixture, England Rugby CEO Bill Sweeney will be at Esher on Saturday. So if you are thinking or are heading to Moseley Road on Saturday, you'll be able to hear from Bill, and I'm sure you'll be able to put your questions to him as well. So a big game to come this weekend between Esher and Darlington Moden Park. But what about the rest of the fixtures in round 6? And we've mentioned Richmond already. This is their best start to a season since the COVID hit campaign of 2019-20, where they won promotion to the Championship. And this week they take on 10th place Dings Crusaders, who are aiming to bounce back after successive defeats. Sale FC versus Roslyn Park at Hayward Road. Sale were very close to ending Richmond's unbeaten start last week. They actually led 4 times at the Athletic Ground, so plenty of plus points to take into this home meeting with Roslyn Park, who after a difficult start are now searching for a 3rd win in a row, and how the tables would have turned for Roslyn Park and Kieran Power's side if they're able to depart the Northwest with another victory. Birmingham Moseley versus Sedgley Park. Birmingham Moseley beaten away at Plymouth Albion last week. They suffered 3 yellow cards as well, so they'll be aiming to hit back against the Sedgley Park side, who have been frustrated by opposition defences in recent weeks. No win since the opening day for Scott Barrow's side, but they have scored just 5 tries in their last 3 games, so they'll be hoping to put that record or improve on that record at Billesley Common on Saturday, but it won't be an easy place to go for the Tigers. And the latest team to beat Sedge were Bishop Stortford in round 5, a great 27-12 win for them. They welcome table-toppers Rams to Silver Lays in round 6. Elsewhere, we've mentioned Esher versus Darlington Moden Park, a massive game for both, even though we're only 6 rounds into the season. 12th place Leicester Lions welcome Rotherham to the Midlands, and Plymouth Albion are back at Brickfields to face Blackheath. Head coach Ryan Lamb telling me last week that Plymouth are starting to find their groove after 3 straight wins. A very difficult start to the season for them, and Ryan didn't shy away from that, but they started to turn things around. They're going for 4 wins on the bounce against Blackheath this weekend. A battle between 5th versus 6th down in Devon, so that should be a pretty good watch if you are heading down to Brickfields on Saturday afternoon. So that's National 1 all wrapped up for this week then. But rather than going straight into National 2 North, which we've tended to do on the National League Rugby preview show, we're actually going to start this week with National 2 East, given the fact that one of our feature clubs for round 6 is Canterbury, and of course they do play in this division. But before we do that, let's look back at round 5 in National 2 East, where we can't look past the top of the table battle between Tunbridge Julians and Guernsey Raiders. It was a fabulous game at the Slade, a brilliant advert for National League Rugby, with Duncan Tout's late try being coolly converted by Tom White to seal a 38-37 win for TJs. Tom White there as well being lifted by his teammates in the end of game celebrations. Brilliant scenes, brilliant ending to what was a brilliant National League Rugby contest. But what it means for the table in National 2 East is that Tunbridge Julians are now the only unbeaten team in the division. 5 wins from 5 for them. Guernsey Raiders remain second after a very good start to the campaign, with Barnes, Dorking and Westcombe Park all on 21 points. Down at the bottom, Colchester are still on the hunt for their first win of the season. They were beaten 36-22 in the East Anglia derby by Bury St Edmunds last time out back-to-back home wins for Jacob Ford's side in that one. Sevenoaks are also in the same boat as Colchester in terms of searching for their first victory of the campaign. They were involved in a classic against Old Albanian, but came out on the wrong side of a 52-49 scoreline. And Worthing and Oxford Harlequins are also still on the hunt for their first taste of success in 2024-25. Worthing did lead at half-time against Barnes in round 5, but 38 unanswered points saw Barnes run out 55-26 winners in that one, whilst Oxford Harlequins were beaten 46-24 at Westcombe Park. And speaking of Westcombe Park, they take the trip down the M2 this weekend to take on Canterbury in a bit of a derby meeting between the two sides. And Canterbury are one of our featured clubs on the National League Rugby preview show for round 6. And I know quite a lot of times on the show, and certainly within National League Rugby, we always talk about our clubs being hubs of the community, and that really is the case with Canterbury. They offer so many opportunities for people to get involved with the club and, of course, get involved in rugby, whether that's the senior men's setup, the women's setup, girls setup, mini and juniors setup, wheelchair rugby, walking rugby. The list seems to be endless, and they've only gotten added to that list of opportunities with their latest initiative. They've recently launched something called the ACE Academy alongside a local school in Canterbury, which in a nutshell is there to provide children, local students, with the opportunity really to play rugby, learn more about rugby, experience the game that we all love, and combine that with their academic studies. So it is really a brilliant initiative which Canterbury are a part of. So we chatted to first 15 player and head of player pathway at Canterbury, Nathan Morris, as well as Canterbury's director of rugby, Taff, Gwilliam.
So the club's really invested in its community, and they want to give opportunities to the local young boys and girls in East Kent. And one of the big kind of areas we saw when we had a reflection on it was a lot of our players were coming from private school pathways or grammar school, in terms of having like a bit of a socioeconomic barrier to that entry. So if you had to meet the grades, or you had to have a financial element. And what we did is, I've been in place for 2 years now running the pathway and the community team here, just saw where the greatest potential for growth is. We partnered with one of our local schools, Archbishop's School. And what we've seen there is, look, if we remove those socioeconomic barriers, so you don't need to be achieving certain 3As to, attend to A level to sixth form. You don't need to be paying X £1,000 a year. You still get given that rugby kind of program. So the 4 sessions a week, we're still running our defense and our attack. We're giving them an S&C program. I'm there 4 days with my team, Ella Jenkins, Alice Hayward, and Cameron McMillan. And we're basically just meeting them at where they are and trying to develop and grow what you would call the state school or comprehensive side of the area, and just give them that accessibility to high-level coaching and an elite program, really.
Well, yeah, what's key for us, the ACE program complements the other things that we've got in place with the grammar schools and the private schools. And the short of it is, we want to grow our player growth. We want to organically grow the club. Geographically, we're challenged in terms of recruiting players. So, we see our future in really developing in-house and developing not only players, but our coaching staff and the way and the skills. It's an overarching program that we're looking to grow the strength of rugby in East Kent and make it a centre to be envied.
We're seeing rugby as a tool for social mobility, and at the end of the day, we partnered with a school because we wanted sustainability in the whole program. We didn't try to be 1, 2, 3 year program, a flash in the pan. We wanted the best thing for these children. Having that is stability. So having that academic partner in Mr. Elliott and Mr. Noop down at Archbishop School gives them that pastoral support. We've been very lucky for each of them has a pastoral manager in the sixth form team, and then also offers a wide variety of academic studies. So, for example, A levels isn't for everyone. So some people, the high achieving, have access to IB in the next year. This year, we've got the A levels and the level 2 qualifications. So they're resitting their English or maths. They need support with the vocational qualifications. We've also, can cater for that. And that's also stretched with our other academic partners, such as Canterbury College, where we have 5 students who come and join into the ACE program because they may be bricklayers, they may be masonries, they may be welders. And we don't want to close rugby as an opportunity to people and put them in a box. We really want to give everybody that opportunity that, deserve and have the commitment to grow.
Too often, groups are are focused on just one element, and we want to be an overarching thing and grow them. But grow them as people, not just players, as people as well within the community.
Yeah, I mean, if I was 10 or 15 years younger, I'd be snapping your hand off when I want to be involved in this. But how is kind of the intake? I mean, it might be early days, Nathan, you might not be able to answer this, but how has kind of the enthusiasm behind it been so far? I know, if I'm right in saying that, after Saturday's game against Haven't just gone, you guys, the first academy game, if you like, took place. So how's the enthusiasm been behind it all?
Oh, we've been very blessed. We're very lucky. We've got around 21 players in the wider squad. So that's huge. Like when I was developing this idea for the last 2 years with Matt Corker, our head coach, and then the last year, Taff, I was a bit concerned in terms of numbers. I was thinking we may have to amalgamate with another school or may have to try and jump in with our Colts or, our under 18 Canterbury club. But actually, it's been phenomenal. It's just taken off. And what you've seen is 5, 6, 7 people starting full time, enjoying it, creates a buzz, and then it just starts like a snowball effect. And yeah, big note from last Saturday after Havant, we had about 200-300 people still stay after the game, watch the Ace Academy versus our Canterbury Colts development team. It was a phenomenal game of rugby. I think the scoreline was 40 points to 24, but the game was much closer than that. And in terms of the skill set, just them being able to see what rugby is about, the pre-match meal, the camaraderie, the sponsors, the parents, the family, everybody being there and being the center of the attention. It was a phenomenal occasion.
What was really nice about it, they're all people from different cross sections of the local community, and they're all integrating. There's no them and us. It really is a fantastic family atmosphere, and highly competitive, and it was just a pleasure to watch. And the sponsors that were here, they loved it, and it's just something that will grow on its own success. We're aspiring to become a National League club, a sustainable National Division 1 club, and to do that, it takes time. Canterbury were there once before, and we came straight back down. Now we're putting foundations in place, which will actually make our campaign to achieve, and if we do achieve it, make it sustainable to play at that level. And it creates local lads who have good skills, who don't want to go into the professional game, will have the opportunity to play a high standard of rugby on their doorstep, and that's paramount.
Just to bring it back to the rugby side of things, guys, if you don't mind, in terms of the season so far, obviously, as we mentioned, right at the top, 4 wins from 5 for Canterbury to begin the season, 3 of which have been at home where you are this weekend against Westcombe Park. So, Nathan, as a player, does that bring a lot of confidence going into a game like Saturday, given the start of the season you've made, particularly at home?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. We've really tried to make this a bit of a fortress. Historically, it's not been so challenging to come here and get points. And we've really tried to have a big mental switch on that respect. We've got Westcombe Park from this weekend, huge local rivalry. Every time we play, it's a big grudge match, especially last year. They turned us over on their patch, and rightly so. Like, we were very poor in the second half. So we have a lot of confidence in the respect that we're getting some good outcomes, but we still have a lot of, process goals to actually deliver on. Ideas around our discipline, our penalty count, elements around there that we've got a lot to work on in the week, and it's really keeping us focused and doubling it down to actually make Saturday a brilliant experience for all.
Well, that's a little bit of an edge to it, is that all the lads from both clubs, there's coaches who used to coach and play at Canterbury, and there's players at Canterbury who used to play at Westcombe Park, and both sets of players are actually instrumental in the Kent County Championship side, which, as you know, are national champions at the moment. And so they play with each other within the county setup. But this weekend, they're going to be playing against each other, and that adds an extra little edge to it. So it should be a real good day.
So big thanks to Taff and Nathan for their time. Another brilliant project which Canterbury are a part of. And if you do want to find out a bit more information about the Ace Academy, do email Nathan at nathan.morris@cantrugby.co.uk. That email should be below me right now. I will put it in the description of the video as well. Or alternatively, get yourself down to Canterbury Rugby Club 2, the Marine Travel Ground, as I'm sure someone at the club will be able to help you and provide you with some more information about what is another fantastic initiative that Canterbury are a part of. And it seems like a brilliant weekend to get yourself down to Canterbury, doesn't it? With them taking on Westcombe Park in round 6 of National 2 East. Stars of Kent Rugby will be on show. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff with Canterbury aiming for their 4th straight home win, whilst Westcombe Park are certainly ticking along nicely, aren't they, at the moment? So it should be a belt of that one over in Kent. So what about the rest of the fixtures then for round 6? Let's have a look at them. And will it be a first win of the season for Colchester? Henley Hawks are the visitors to Raven Parks, with Henley losing 34-5 last time out against Dorking. Director of Rugby Luke Allen was very honest with his assessment of the performance. So Henley will be going to Colchester aiming for their first win since round 2. And speaking of Dorking, they host Oxford Harlequins in round 6, with Oxford Quins back on the road this weekend. Another huge game for Guernsey Raiders after playing 6th place Canterbury and league leaders TJ's Tunbridge Judians in the last 2 weeks. They host 3rd place Barnes this weekend at Foots Lane. Another fixture which really does jump out the page in these early knockings of the season. And speaking of league leaders Tunbridge Judians, they're aiming for win number 6 of the campaign away at Havant. Is something TJs haven't achieved since November 2019. They have not won 6 games in a row for nearly 5 years. So can they set a new record or match that record, should I say, this weekend? Elsewhere, Sevenoaks versus Bury St Edmunds. Sevenoaks showed a lot of character in last week's loss to Old Albanian. Can they now turn those plus points into a victory against Bury St Edmunds? And Worthing will also be looking to do the same when they take on Old Albanian, who are hunting for a 3rd straight win. So let's go into National 2 North now, where in fact this is where the National League Rugby weekend truly kicks off, because on Friday night, Leeds Tykes are hosting Wharfdale at the Sycamore. So what a way to kick off your rugby weekend under the Friday night lights in Yorkshire. They're always well-attended games, these ones, and we expect exactly the same this coming Friday, especially with the way Leeds Tykes have started the season. Maximum points for Pete Seaborn's side, 5 wins from 5 after getting past Billingham 33-14 last time out away from home. And it has felt we haven't talked too much about Leeds Tykes on the preview show this season, but that is because they're going about their business extremely efficiently. Once again, it's just 2 defeats in 31 National League Rugby games now for Leeds Tykes, and it's 16 straight home wins as well. So there lies the challenge for Wharfdale on Friday night, who come into this game after losing 34-24 at home to Hull. They've actually lost the last 2 games, so the Green Machine will be wanting a reaction when they arrive in Leeds on Friday evening. And before we look at the table ahead of round 6 fixtures, we have to mention Preston Grasshoppers on the show once again. Yet again, they were involved in a nail-biter at Lightfoot Green, but it didn't go the way of Dan Orwin's side on this occasion. Benjamin Haig's try, converted by Josh Leslie, snatched a 31-all draw for Tynedale in Lancashire. And all 5 of Preston's games this season have been decided by a margin of 7 points or less. So if you are a Preston supporter, you're certainly getting your money's worth watching Hoppers this season, and things are certainly not dull around the Lancashire side. But I'm sure Dan and the players at Preston will be hoping to make their lives just a little bit easier as the season progresses. So let's have a look at the table then as we head into round 6. And as we've mentioned, Leeds have a perfect record to date, but so do Lynn, who continued doing their thing last week. They beat Harrogate 57-24 to stay top of the pile and maintain their brilliant start to the season. Sheffield are also 5 from 5 after beating Otley 38-15 last time out. Down at the bottom, Sheffield Tigers were blown away 59-17 by Chester in round 5. Harrogate did pick up a bonus point in that aforementioned defeat against Lim, while Tynedale's draw with Preston means they halted their losing start to the campaign, and that is something they'll be wanting to build upon as we go into round 6. So let's have a look at the fixtures then for the weekend. As we said, Leeds Tykes versus Wharfdale, 8 p.m. kickoff on Friday night. So what better way? Finish work, get yourself home, get yourself sorted out, and get yourself down to the Sycamore. It sounds like the perfect way to begin your weekend. And then on to Saturday's fixtures in National 2 North, where Billingham host Hull Ionians, Chester, fresh from their blistering display against Sheffield Tigers, go to another winless side. In round 6, they take on Harrogate. A much improved Hull, who have now won 2 games on the spin, take on unbeaten Sheffield at Chantelands Avenue. Otley welcome Preston Grasshoppers to Cross Green. Sheffield Tigers take on Fylde, aiming to get off the mark, while Fylde picked up a really good 35-32 win at Hull Ionians last week. If I'm right in saying, and I'm sure Fylde will correct me if I'm wrong, it was their first away win since February of this year. So can they have more joy on the road in round 6? And last but not least, Tynedale take on league leaders Lymm, with Lymm now having scored the most amount of points in National League Rugby this season. It's a remarkable statistic so far. 224 points they've scored so far this term, and they'll be looking to continue their ruthless approach when they visit Tynedale this weekend. And we finish in National 2 West then, where in round 5 we were treated to some absolutely brilliant action, where late winning moments seemed to be the order of the day. And over at Hinckley, they were able to get their first victory of the campaign. They beat Clifton 32-26, and it's a really nice story, this one. 18-year-old debutant Riley Gilbert going over for the decisive try heading into the final 10 minutes to help his side get their first victory of this season. There was late drama over at Camborne, and Hornets had their hearts broken, with the Cherry and White snatching a 30-27 victory thanks to a penalty try 5 minutes from the end. And the late drama continued at Scotland Lane, where Casey Pike's last-minute try secured Old Redcliffians a thrilling 45-40 victory against Redruth. This was another brilliant advert for National League Rugby, but it also means that Old Reds have now got a full year unbeaten at home. It's 13 straight wins for the club, and it's an excellent achievement for Dan Cox and Craig Owens' side. So really good stuff from Old Redcliffians, really good stuff from Luctonians as well, who were dominant in round 5. They wore their orange shirt last week for their annual charity day, and they marked it with a 9-try, 66-5 victory over Macclesfield. And it means, as we bring up the table now, that Luctonians are the outright leaders in National 2 West. They are the only team to have won all 5 games after Bourneville ended Loughborough Students' unbeaten start last time out with a 43-24 win. So Luctonians now the only unbeaten side in the division. At the bottom, after Hinckley's win, Devonport remain as the only team without a win. They did manage a bonus point at Cinderford in last week's 44-26 defeat, though Devonport boss Ben Russell was really pleased about that. They've been hit by so many injuries so far this season and only trailed 22-19 at half-time. So, some positives still to take for Devonport services heading in to round 6. And for round 6, our feature club this week is Loughborough Students in National 2 West. It's been a great start to the season for the Midlands club. You just saw the table there with them sitting in second place, and they take on Exeter University on Saturday. Now, this is always quite a unique fixture in National League Rugby, because both institutions are quite different compared to the rest of the other clubs at levels 3 and 4, because their player pool is very, very student based. It means the player turnover is likely to be more frequent, so squads are changing all the time. But both institutions, both Loughborough and Exeter, have commitments in University Rugby's top tier competition, which is Buck Super Rugby. Now, for those who don't know, Exeter won the league title last year, but Loughborough won the championship title, the big prize at the end of the season. So there's a little bit of a rivalry bubbling there, but it does show that both Loughborough and Exeter have to split their commitments between Buck Super Rugby and National League Rugby, which is why we wanted to catch up with Loughborough head of rugby, Martin Webdale, to talk about that balancing act between a Wednesday afternoon and a Saturday afternoon, and also about the excellent start to the season Loughborough have had.
Oh, look, we're absolutely delighted with the start we've made. As ever with us as a rugby club, we have a high transition of players year in, year out. So I think the start that we've made to the season is testament to the players' hard work in that off-season and pre-season, the integration of a number of new players coming into our squad as 18-year-olds. has been brilliant, and that's testament to the results that we've achieved on the pitch so far. In general, we probably lose around about 40% of our squad each year would graduate, and similar to that this year. And I think that's testament. A number of those guys have graduated, have moved to different National League clubs throughout the country. So it's always lovely to see and play against those guys. Like, for example, first league game of the season against Taunton. There was a couple of guys in that squad, and a number of guys in all the National 2 leagues as well as National 1. But that high turnover of players, it happens to us regularly each year. And what's great about that is bringing through that new blood, identifying and seeing those guys put out on the pitch and really develop in front of your eyes very, very quickly. Because the great thing about us playing in National League Rugby is that sort of huge development curve that's able to afford those players, whether that's coming up and probably playing adult rugby for the first time for the vast majority of those players, and the sort of challenges that brings, without a shadow of a doubt. So to see in front of your eyes those players growing and developing week on week is a real pleasing aspect of it. Now, guys will play across both Buck Super Rugby and National League 2 West across the season. So to have that diet of different rugby opportunities is great for us as a rugby program. We will run our performance squad, which is sort of our top 65 players within our rugby club, and they will train together. They won't train as a separate Buck Super Rugby and National League squad. They will train together throughout the time. So that's really important to us, that the players then experience that crossover throughout the season.
You know, I know you through Buck Super Rugby, really, and obviously I know how much you guys wanted to win that league title last season. So is there you don't have to answer this, I might be putting you on the spot a bit, but is there kind of a split between how much emphasis goes on the Wednesday Buck Super Rugby and the Saturday of National League Rugby, or is it straight down the middle, 50-50, and you want to do as well as you can in both competitions?
Yeah, no, absolutely fine. Good question to ask, and we want to do as well as we can in both competitions, and achieving that balance is really important from us as a rugby program. Look, the National League Rugby is a huge part of our program. We have been in National League 1 in the past. We find ourselves in National League 2 West at the moment, having been in National 2 North as well. And look, it's a huge part of us as a rugby program. It's not secondary to Buck Super Rugby or anything like that. It's a huge part of our program, being able to play and have 2 first teams out on a weekly basis. We will at times certainly put a stronger squad out in Buck Super Rugby because of the nature of that competition, without a shadow of a doubt. But across the season, as I said, a lot of our players will cross over and play both National League Rugby and Buck Super Rugby throughout the seasons. In a prior life, I coached up at Hull in National 2 North, and I really appreciate what National League Rugby is all about. It's the third and fourth tiers of English rugby, and it's the lifeblood of the game. So for me, it's a huge part of it. We want to do as well as we can. We pay a huge respect to the league. The league is massively competitive week in, week out. With the 2 clubs coming down from National 1 last season, it certainly made National 2 West stronger, I think, as a league this season, which makes it great for us. And it's brilliant, the guys going down to Redruth, for example, and experiencing the hospitality down there off the pitch, and Hellfire Corner on the pitch, and getting those sort of experiences that you don't get anywhere else. Coming out of a lot of those guys coming out of schoolboy rugby, and then moving into their first experiences of the adult game. It's absolutely brilliant, whether that's, as I said, Redruth away or Luctonians with all their supporters banging the boards around the side. It's brilliant, and you get to go and visit, see different grounds, see different experiences, and it's a great sort of growing up process for the players, as opposed to what their sort of diet of rugby, whether that's been schoolboy, potentially academy league rugby, that kind of thing, before coming to us at Loughborough.
But we might contradict ourselves a little bit, because obviously you are playing Exeter University this weekend, the team that you know well, obviously playing in the Bucks competition and in National 2 West. I know you've already played them in the Bucks season, but that was probably 2 very different sides to what we might see on Saturday. So just tell us a little bit about that rivalry, because it's kind of bubbled along very nicely from a university perspective over the last couple of years, with you guys winning the title in brilliant fashion last year in terms of Buck Super Rugby. But it just seems to be a really nice rivalry which is building between two of the university sides in National League Rugby.
Yeah, completely right. Look, Exeter run a fantastic program, really well led by Gareth and his group of coaches down there. Look, it's a really good one. It's a really good rivalry in that respect. It's kind of probably accelerated, I'd say, since post-COVID with Exeter moving up into the national leagues, and for the last couple of seasons, ourselves and Exeter sort of finishing first and second in Bug Super Rugby. So in 22-23, we managed to win the Bug Super Rugby League, and they won the cup final in extra time. And then that flipped over last season with Exeter winning the league and us winning the cup final. So by its nature, it's probably accelerated that competitive element of it. And as a group of coaches, a group of staff, we get on really well off the field, which is nice. And you exchange stories and that kind of thing up and down the league. On the pitch is certainly full-blooded. The beauty of it is as well, a lot of the players know each other, whether they've been to the same schools or played at the same clubs before coming their separate ways to university as well. So it's really nice to see that sort of rivalry on the pitch, but that friendship off the pitch in that respect, because they've grown up together and had multiple different experiences together. So look, it's a really nice thing to see, certainly off the pitch, but it is certainly full-blooded on the pitch.
So many thanks to Martin for his time there. It sounds like Loughborough are doing a great job at balancing those university rugby duties with the National League rugby commitments, and it's something they'll be looking to sustain throughout the course of the campaign. And it should be a really lively crowd down at Loughborough on Saturday with them playing Exeter. You heard from Martin there that the rivalry is a nice rivalry, but it also is very much blood and thunder for 80 minutes when the teams meet. So it should be a great atmosphere. And in fact, at Loughborough's last university rugby game against Bath, they had over 2,500 people in attendance. So why not experience that kind of atmosphere on Saturday afternoon and see some of the best talent in the country, because both Loughborough and Exeter University are stacked with really promising players. And, you know, in the past, some of these lads who have played for both institutions have gone on to bigger and better things. They've played in Premiership Rugby, they've played for England as well. So it's a pathway which is certainly a fruitful one at the moment, and Loughborough and Exeter University are very much at the heart of that. And also, just a side note, Loughborough have asked me to give their next Buck Super Rugby game a bit of a shout out. That's on October the 23rd against Hartpury. It's free entry, so another opportunity to get yourselves down to Loughborough to experience the atmosphere, experience what Loughborough is all about, but very much begin that process by heading to Loughborough this weekend, because it's sure to be a brilliant contest against Exeter University and the latest episode in their simmering rivalry. So let's have a look at the rest of the fixtures then in round 6 for this weekend. Camborne versus Hinckley, as we said at the top of the National 2 West chat. Camborne breaking the hearts of Hornets with that late win last week. They're back at home this week to take on a Hinckley side who will head to Cornwall in better spirits after picking up their first win in round 5. Devonport Services take on Clifton. Devonport, despite no win so far this term, are collecting positives along the way in National 2 West. They take on a Clifton side who have lost their last 3 matches. So is there an opportunity for Devonport to maybe capitalise on Clifton's downturn in form, or will the Lavender and Blacks respond in round 6? Hornets versus Bourneville. Hornets, as we mentioned, left Camborne last week with 2 points rather than 5. So can they turn what would have been a disappointing result into a positive result on Saturday when they take on Bourneville, who currently sit in 5th place? Loughborough Students versus Exeter University, we have focused on. Macclesfield host Cinderford at Priory Park. Cinderford will arrive in Cheshire after picking up 3 straight wins, so it's they're in a good moment, a good place at the moment. Are Cinderford. Red Roof entertain tabletoppers Luctonians. Red Roof so close to defeating Old Redcliffians last time out, but just saw a 9-point lead slip away for them late on. Can they now bounce back against Luctonians? But Luctonians, as we know, 5 straight wins. The early table toppers will be a tough nut to crack. And finally, Taunton Titans, who've now won 3 of the last 4 games after beating Exeter University 42-21 in round 5. They take on Old Redcliffians at Veritas Park. So that's it then for this week on the National League Rugby Preview Show. Do keep watching and liking our videos if you do enjoy them. And for those who haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button if you can. It honestly takes just 2 seconds of your time, and it really, really does help what we're doing here at National League Rugby, and it would be much appreciated if you're able to do that. Do check out talkingrugbyunion.co.uk as well for all the latest National League Rugby news, as well as all the latest news from around the rugby world. And don't forget to check out our very own website, National League Rugby's website, for the latest reviews, previews, and also it is the quickest way to find out all the results from National 1 and National 2 come full time on a Saturday afternoon. So don't be going anywhere else. Make sure you check out our own website to see who has done what in your respective division. And also you can check out all the other teams from across levels 3 and 4. So wherever you're heading to this weekend, please do enjoy everything National League Rugby has to offer. And we look forward to seeing you next week.